In this tutorial, you will learn how to do a crafting system similar to this one in Minecraft, just like when you add 2 sticks and 3 iron bars to your crafting area, then you will have iron pickaxe and you will be able to just crafting this item to an item. And if you like tutorials like this, just leave a like. If you want to support me, just subscribe to the channel, it will help me a lot. And let's go. Start with adding crafting area to the inventory, which is easy because we just need to copy paste this inventory from here to here, and we'll just put it above because we want the crafting area will be above the inventory right here, and we will just do adjustments. We'll rename it to crafting area. In this label we are writing also crafting area. So we have this slot group which we'll rename to crafting slot group. It's important that it has this name for the code later on. We will add another child to this one. It will be an hbox container. In this hbox container we will put the crafting slot group, and we will add also a panel container which we will rename to result slots. We will mark both. We will right click them and say access as unique name, so we will access directly the name with the person sign without need to write the whole path to this node. Then we will add slots which we just created in the tutorial before. This slot scene, 1 to the result scene, 1 to the result node, and 9 to the crafting, this one. And we also say in this crafting slot group that we have columns 3, and in the result slot we just say here horizontal alignment and vertical alignment will be shrink to center. And this is somehow how our crafting area will looks like. And now we'll just do a few adjustments which will prepare the functionality of this crafting area. So we go to our scripts. First change will be the item data. We will create a variable where we will store array with strings, which will be actually the names of the receipt, which are the items you need for creating this item. So in this one we call it item receipt, item recipe, packed string array. Now we save it. And the next change, we need to create inventory data, which will act as our crafting field. So we have item data and we will change the size to 9 because we can store 9 items here. We will save this and call it crafting area inventory data. And the same thing for the result, inventory data size 1 because the result can be just one item, and we say save result data. Next is we need to add 2 more signals to our global signal script, which we have right here. The first one will be whenever first signal will be called whenever the crafting area will be updated when we put an item or put out an item, and the second one will be when we put out an item from the result slot. The difference between the update crafting area and the update result slot is that we will send over the current recipe from this item to the functions which will be called from the signal, so that we later on can delete, for example, the items from the crafting area. Current recipe packed string array. So this is the change in this script, and the next change will be in global data. There we will write a function which will be there to fetch all item data we have in our items resource folder. We have, for example, iron bar, iron pickaxe, wood stick. These are the 3 items we have. This will be pre-stored with this function now. So we will add a variable which will be an export variable, all items as a dictionary. Then we will call the ready function, and here we say get all items, and we create a function which is get all items leads to void, and we will write the code now. First we will iterate over the items folder for item in direct access. Direct access will give us the opportunity to can access these items directly from their folder. So we say direct access get files add. And now we have to write the path from the resource folder. This will be always the start to this item folder where we want to get the resources from. In our case it is resources / items. And now that this for loop will work properly, we will store a variable which will be the current item. And we say this current item is item data equals load. We will load this file. This we will do this way. Resource. Actually, we will write the same path like we have above, but we will add item at the end, so we'll load a file and not a folder. So the next thing is we will add an if statement which will current if current item dot item recipe, which we just created before, is empty, then we will just continue. So we will skip that item and we will not add this to the all items dictionary, because in this dictionary we want to save only items which has a recipe. So items without a recipe we don't need to access in runtime, at least for this functionality. But if it has a recipe, we say all items brackets current item dot item recipe. We will use the recipe as a key for the dictionary, store the current item, the resource, as the value for this key. So whenever we iterate over this all item, we will searching for an array which has exactly these items in this order, and if this match, then we will got this current item as a resource. So for example, an iron pickaxe has iron bar, iron bar, iron bar, null, stick, null, null, stick, null. This will be somehow the array for this recipe from this iron pickaxe. So this is all the preparation we have to do. And now the important thing, the functionality that we actually can craft items, is we have to do an inventory window, and we will start at the top. We have to add two new variables, which will be the crafting data in form of an inventory data and the result data also in form of an inventory data. This is what we just created before. So we click on the inventory window on the left, we say crafting. So we have this inventory data here, we'll just put it here in crafting data, and we have this result data here, we'll just add it here and save it, so that it will work later on when we do changes to the result or to the crafting table. The next thing is we need to connect signals to the functionality. So whenever crafting table changes or the result slot, then we want that something happen. So we connect the signals we just create here to some functions which we'll create now. So first, the connection. We got access to global signals, connect, update, crafting area, and we connect it with update crafting area. It's not existing yet, but we'll just create it later, and we'll do the same for the result. So now we will write the functionality for the crafting area. We write, I always like to keep the order. So here we have inventory, like here. The next one is crafting area, and then it's result. So behind update inventory, we will write function update crafting area void, and here we will just add the script, which will be very similar to this one, but a bit differently. So the first part will be the same for slot in, and now we need to have access to crafting slot. So we say person crafting slot group dot get children slot dot q3. So first of all, we'll delete all the slots which are here in this group so that we can load them later on again. And now we will create a variable which will be a packed string array. This is something what we need later. This will be actually a string which will store all the names of the items which are currently in the crafting area. So we say variable current items pack string array equals, first we will keep it empty, and then we say for item data in crafting data dot item data. So we got access to our crafting data right here, this array. So for each item data we will create a slot which we'll do right variable a new slot equals reload resource slash slash slot dot tscn dot instantiate, and then we give this new slot the current item as the item data. Current item equals item data, and we say %crafting slot group. This is this one here on the left, and we add this one as a child dot add child new slot, and then we say if item data current items dot append item data dot item name. Otherwise we say current items dot append, and we say null. So what does this last part do is that this array which we have here in the beginning will be checking, will create, here we want to store each item name which is right now here on the right in this array, and when this array doesn't has item data, then it will write null in this array on this position, and if it has an item data, then it will write its name in this array. And that this array has a sense and will be useful for us, we will emit the global signals dot update result slot dot emit, and we'll send over, as you remember, we need an array will be sent over to current recipe. So we say emit current items. So whenever we call the update result slot, we need to send a flag. In this case, it's an array. So we send this over, so we will not have any error. Now we will add the function for update the result slot. We will not keep this empty. We say current recipe, tagging array, void, and we say, actually the first part is always the same. For slot is to reset the group in result slot in our case, dot get children slot dot q3, and then we'll create a new. So we say if global data dot all items dot has this current recipe, then we say variable result equals global data dot all items dot get current recipe result data dot item data 0 equals result, and then we have an else, which will just happen that we keep this data empty when there's no recipe which will work or will lead to an item. Then we will have null, and we say result data dot item data position 0 equals null. So what does this if statement doing? We check the array which we just created here in global data, which stores all items which has a recipe with the recipe as a key and with the item resource as a value. And if this items which we have currently in our crafting area has an item which can be crafted from these items, then we will get this from this array, from this dictionary we have in global data. Otherwise it will just show null and there will be no item presented. And now we just need to set it. So we say variable new slot equals preload resource slot dot tscn dot instantiate new slot dot current item equals result data dot item data 0 and percent result slot dot add child new slot. So both functions working now. We have updating crafting area, we have update result slot, and the next thing is we will add a function which we'll use later. So when we have an item which can be crafted and we just pick it out from this result slot, so from here when we pick out an item which will be crafted from these items, we don't want that the player will just have this item and the items which will be needed for crafting will still stay there, so we'll delete them. So this is the function what we'll write now. Function delete crafting items void, and we say for index in crafting data dot item data dot size crafting data dot item data index equals null. So right now we don't update the currently visual thing from the inventory, so we don't change this area yet. Here we just change the data we store in this array here on the side, so we will set every data to null, so it will be empty. The next thing what we need to do is we will adjust the drag function. This is a create drag item. The difference will be that before we had just the inventory where we can drag items, but now we have different inventories where we can drag items. We have the crafting area where we can drag an item, we have the result area where we can drag an item, and also the inventory, so that we can use this function for all three inventories. We'll adjust it a bit. So behind this index we will writing inventory data type as an inventory. We'll just check this one will be also differently. We will store inventory here also, which is inventory data type. Then we have the item like here, and we have the index like here. Next thing is the variable. This will be unchanged. New drag item dot texture inventory data dot item data index dot item texture will be changed, because right now we don't want to have access only to the inventory. We want to have access to the inventory which we just sent over with the flag right here. We will write this here inventory data type, and the new drag item dot mouse filter function will also be the same. The name will be the same, and a child will be the same. So the only things we'll change is this one, and this one. Save it, and as you can see here we have this error now, and this is something what we'll fix now. That the whole thing what we just created before will actually work is we have have to do very much adjustments to the inputs, but we already prepared everything, so just do the changes like the following. So we will begin with rest, which is called whenever we press the left mouse button. After that, we will create a variable, which will be the hovered node, and this is right here. And here we check. The first change we will do here is we will send over inventory data. So the first thing is what we do is we'll just put this one tab further, and we just write another if statement here. If hovered node don't get parent equals slot group, then we will check for this one. And if this is the case, we'll send over inventory data, because if this hovered node is currently and has the parent slot group, that means it will be an item from the inventory. So we have to call this function. So now we have to copy paste this part, just write it this way so it's a bit easier to get. Now we need the same thing for crafting slot group. So we say if hovered node dot get parent equals crafting slot node, then we say if not. Here we have to exchange the inventory data to crafting data dot item data and so on. And also here we will not send the inventory data over, we say crafting data. And here also we will not say inventory data, we say crafting data. And rather than global signals dot update inventory, we say update crafting area dot emit, and then we also can say return, and we also put in return here. Actually it's not that necessary, but just for safety reasons, that when we do click on a slot group, and it will just return here and will not try to read the other if statements, and just makes it a bit easier for the computer. And we just copy paste this again for the result slot. So we say if hovered node dot get parent is result slot, and also here result data, and here also update result slot. So we need to emit, we need to do three things here. After the create the drag item, we will call the delete function, which we just created before, delete crafting items. So we delete the items from the crafting area. Then we will have setting the result item data to null, and we will update both inventories. So we say global signals dot update crafting area dot emit, and also global signals dot update result slot. But as you remember, the signal always wants a flag from us, so we just simply send an empty array over, and that will always work. Then we return. And everything what happens when we click with the left click is done this way. I know there are better ways to write all of this, but I think this is the easier to read version to do an inventory system, and easier to debug. You can simplify it a lot, but I think it's easier to understand this way. And now we will do everything when we have a dragged item and want to release it. There are also a few things to share. So the first change is that we will put this part to the top if has node item drag. So if this is the case, we'll just delete the dragged item beforehand, and also if not current dragged item data, then we'll return. This has the easy reason that when we just release the mouse left, we just want to check beforehand if it has something to do with releasing an item. If not, then we don't need to do the rest of this code. Rather than 3 variables, we'll create 5 variables. This will be hovered node, which is already here. The second is inventory, which is hovered node dot get parent. Then we have the item, like here, and then we have the index, like here, and also we have variable drag item from inventory. This is important. So if the player has a failed drop, so for example he is dragging an item from here and drop it somewhere outside of an inventory, it's a failed drop. So rather than just disappear, it will just jumps back to this inventory where the player dragged it. So we say var dragged item from inventory equals current dragged item data dot get inventory. So now we will check if not hovered node is slot. We will check inventory data dot item data index equals item, and rather than just updating the inventory, we will update every inventory. So we say global signals, update crafting area. Okay, I just see right now I wrote up data. I'll just quickly change it. Moment. So we have update crafting area and we have global data update and we have global signals dot update result slot dot emit. And as you know, we can't send this last signal without any array. So we just send over the item dot item recipe and return later the next if statement, if inventory data dot item data Harvard node not get indexed. So we will just add something which will check beforehand if the current inventory is the inventory, the player inventory. Then we should say if inventory equals percent slot data and important and this one. Then we will say if this is the case, direct item from inventory dot item data index equals item, and we will just delete this part. And after this if statement we say current direct item data dot clear. So we will just make it empty and we emit the signal global signals dot update inventory dot emit and return. And the same thing, we need to do it for crafting slot group, the result group, and we have to do this also for the crafting area, because this function is also just checking which inventory is that. This is the inventory, for example, and it checks if this inventory where we just want to put it has already an item in this slot. If this is the case, we will just send it back to the item where it comes from. So we'll just write it for also the crafting area. So rather than if inventory is slot data, we will say crafting slot group and not inventory data. Here we say crafting data, and we'll just go over direct item from inventory item in the equals item is still the same, and rather than updating the inventory we will update the crafting area. And now we need functions for if the inventory does has an empty slot, so that we'll put the item in the empty slot from the inventory where we just dropped the item. So we just copy this part here, say if inventory equals, and then we just delete this part and we'll just rewrite. So we say if inventory equals percent slot data percent slot group, then we say inventory data dot item data covered node dot get index equals item. Then we say current, we also clear the current direct item dot item data dot clear, and we say global signals dot update inventory dot emit and return. And we just copy this part. We need it 3 times. So first of all we'll do it for the result slot. If inventory equals result slot, then we say result data item data Harvard node so on result data dot. Okay, for the result slot we just want to do it differently. We don't want that the player is able to put something inside the result slot. So we say current, we say direct item from inventory dot item data index equals item, and then we say current direct item data dot clear, and we also say global signals dot update inventory dot emit, and also global signals dot update crafting area dot emit, and we will return. And the last class, what we need to do is we need to do the exact same thing like for the slot group. So the inventory, we need to do the same thing to the crafting area. So we say crafting slot group, and here also crafting data dot item data Harvard node dot get index equals item current direct item data dot clear, and rather than updating the inventory we will update the crafting area and return. When we did everything alright, then we will just create recipes for our items. We'll just have the iron pickaxe to testing it. So we just go to our iron pickaxe chest, and in this item recipe we'll just put in recipe which has 9 indexes. The 0 is iron bar. Important is that you write it exactly the same way like you wrote it in your resources. So I have to write item bar, iron bar, null. Then we have wooden stick, we have wood stick, iron pickaxe, we have wood stick, then we have null again, then we have null again, wood stick, and also null. So when we did everything alright, and we go to our game scene, I just check the crafting areas above the inventory. We start the game. Invalid access to property or key item recipe on base object of type null instance. Or we have to say slash. Important, resources slash items slash. So when we just put something inside our crafting area, this iron bar, this iron bar, this one, and this one. You can see we have an iron pickaxe here. We can just drag and drop it here. There was just a mistake with dropping the item to the inventory. Just a moment. Okay, the mistake is actually here. If not Harvard node is slot, rather than the inventory data, we have to say drag item from inventory dot item data. In brackets, we have to write index equals null. Then we say current dragged item data dot clear, and then we emit all the 3 signals. When we just drag and drop items from here to here, and we also do a few mistakes here in the Harvard mode for result slot. We have to say if not result data dot item data, and here we write 0, and then we say create drag item, and rather than current index we say also 0. Then we say not delete crafting items. Yet we will just call result data dot item data null equals null. Then we say delete crafting item, and then we emit the update crafting area and update results slot. Important is that here in the end always says equals item for the action released, equals items everywhere. And also the last mistake we did was that rather than inventory data type, we wrote inventory data here. So important, say inventory data type, and then item inventory data type dot item data index, rather than inventory data dot item data. So when we did everything alright, we should have a working inventory and king crafting system. So let's put iron bars here and sticks, and as you can see here we have an iron pickaxe, and when we pick it from here and put it there, then the items will disappear from the crafting area and we have a new iron pickaxe. If you like this tutorial, just leave a like. If you have more questions to this tutorial, just leave it in the comments, and if you want to see more tutorials like this, just leave a subscribe. It will help me a lot, and hopefully see you again in the next video.